Hey everyone, Dylan here, and in today's video, I'm actually going to be doing something like, what is the best instrument for a blind person? And so I'm going to be going over not every instrument, but 3 of them. I'm going to be going over violin, piano, and guitar. And a couple disclaimers here. There might be more easier instruments that I'm not aware of, but these are ones that I have, messed with myself. 2 of them I've played it deeply, and then, so also I don't want to discourage any person who has their heart set on playing, any of these instruments. If you really want to do it, then do it. You can play any of these. So if you have your heart set on one, then do it. But if you just want to play an instrument, have a hobby to do while you're being blind, and you don't have as much stuff to do, and you don't really know which one you should maybe go with, you're not pulled towards one, like a specific one. But yeah, play it if you really want. But this will just give you more details about what it might entail to play that instrument, and can kind of give you some more info for what you might be in for and what path might be a little bit harder. So yeah, okay. So there are going to be 4 categories I'm going to go over for each instrument. I apologize if this video is long, but there's a lot I need to explain. So the first category, in no specific order, is one is like knowledge/technique. That basically means how much knowledge and technique do you need to play the instrument and get a sound out, like a decent sound. Then we have maintenance. How much maintenance do you have to do for that particular instrument? Then we have cost. How much does the instrument cost? Would the upkeep cost? Those sort of things. And then like a other/miscellaneous category, which just has some extra stuff that I might want to talk about. So we're going to talk about, for the first instrument, the violin. So I will say, with the violin itself, there's a lot to take in. So I'll just say personally, this is the one I've kind of played the least, and there's a reason for it. But pretty much we're going to go into the first category, technique and knowledge. So for violin with technique and knowledge, for knowledge, you will need to learn a couple things. And those things are, for just knowledge based, you will need to learn about how to hold the bow. You will need to learn about the bow. You'll need to learn about tuning and the string names. I mean, I guess you don't really necessarily in the beginning need to know the string names, but you're gonna have to learn that for knowledge. But another thing is, like I said, you're gonna really have to learn about the hair, the bow, those sort of things. So that's kind of like the knowledge. And rosin, you have to learn about rosin to even get a sound out of the violin. And then as far as technique, this is the doozy. This is the technique part. The things that you will need to have technically and technique to really get the violin to work is you will need to hold it. You'll need to learn how to hold it, because you hold the violin on, depending on which hand you're dominant on, you hold it with your hand out to kind of the side, slash at an angle, maybe at 11 o'clock, and you hold it with your collarbone. And so you kind of clamp in between your collarbone and your your chin. And so you have to get that right. You got to get the hand position right. Another technique type thing you need to know is the bow. The bow, you'll have to learn how to hold it properly and get finger strength to where you can hold it right and move it up and down. You'll have to practice just even the movement of the bow, because you got to learn to use your wrist in a certain way and your elbow to bow up and down the strings. You have to learn how to hit the strings right, because the strings are in an arch. They're not flat across from each other. They're slightly raised from each other, so you can hit the strings separately. And again, you will also have to get technique for just being able to hold down the strings to produce sound. Of course, bowing, you'll have to learn how much pressure to use to the bow to get a sound, so whether it's loud or not. So that's another technical thing. And you will also have to learn later on where to put your fingers to get a sound, because unlike a guitar, there are no frets on a violin. So if you just put your finger anywhere, there's not much of a guideline to find where you need to put your finger. So in just those aspects, the violin is very technical and has a lot of technique and that you need to learn. So it's a bit much, but I myself have messed with it, and that's how I know all this, because I did research this back then, and I also tried it myself. So this is how I know from firsthand experience. But maybe one day I'll pick the violin back up and try it again. But yeah. So next is maintenance. What will you have to do to maintain the violin? So to maintain the violin, which is the most work, you will need to keep it in tune. Every so often, you will need to change the strings, which you'll have to take the strings off, and then you will have to put new strings on and then tune those. You have to make sure you keep your bow. The bow is the wooden stick part, and then it has horsehair on it, which makes contact with the strings and makes a sound. But what you did not know is that your bow uses this stuff called rosin. It's like hardened sap. And the hardened sap, it comes in these blocks, and they will last you a really long time, but you have to break it and get this powdery stuff, and then you have to rub it up and down your bow, and up and down the hair of your bow, because without that, your bow will not make any sound. The horsehair will not make any sound on the strings unless you have enough rosin on it. So you have to make sure to keep it rosined every so often. You also have to, for the health of your bow, they say to loosen it, because the bow, you can tighten it and loosen it, and you tighten it for when you're wanting to play, and then when you're done, you loosen it when you put it up. Also, every so often, you will have to clean the horsehair as well, and then also, because you'll probably be getting rosin on the instrument itself, you might have to clean that area too. So those are the maintenance aspects of the violin. And then now we go to cost. So I personally believe in getting a decent instrument from the start, because that way it's not the instrument, it's you, and that way you can improve and you'll get better, you'll get improvement and see your improvement from yourself. Whereas if you have a crappy instrument, then it's just well, is it me, or is it just the instrument that's bad, and no matter how good I'm getting, it'll just sound bad. And so for when I researched violins a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I would say I listened to some of them. I haven't tried them, but I would imagine if you bought a violin for $150, $160, you should have something pretty decent to get you by. So if we go by, about $150, $160, that's one cost. Then you have, you'll replace your strings once in a while, and strings could probably cost you $10 to $20. So let's go in the middle area. Just say $15 for, strings every, maybe every, maybe you could probably get away with it, maybe, twice a year, replacing your strings, depending on how you want to do it. So that's probably about $30 extra for the year. And you'll have to do that, every year. And then rosin lasts a long time, so you won't have to change rosin very often, but that is something. And I don't remember how much rosin costs off the top of my head, but I don't think it's that expensive, maybe like $10 or something. And then your bow eventually could wear out, and you might have to eventually get a new bow. I don't remember how much those are. Maybe like $20-$30. So it really just depends, but the upfront cost is probably like $150-$160, and those other things are later. So that's kind of about what you're looking at. You could probably go to maybe $130 for a violin and still be all right. So just kind of listen, do your research and all that. So that's kind of the cost aspect to the violin. And then finally, other / miscellaneous is some things that you will need to do is, again, you will have to learn how to where to put your fingers to get some sound. You have to have enough rosin on the bow, because if you do not have enough rosin on the bow and on the hair, you will not make any sound. And that can be kind of difficult for blind people, whether or not they know whether enough rosin is on the bow, because you might not know because you're blind, right? So it can be a little difficult. Also, bowing up and down the strings, trying to learn where that little area is to hit the strings and bow them correctly, that can be a bit of a hassle. But the violin is if you can get all that stuff good, it is just that you pick it up and you play it. But another downside to it is there's no real volume control. Maybe if you got really good, you could play it more softly, but a beginner is not going to have that technical touch to play really quietly. So if you live in an area where your neighbors will hate you, that could be a problem as well with the violin. So that's another thing to keep in consideration. I apologize if you hear noise outside. I have my window open because it's really nice out, so I apologize if you hear children outside. But yeah, so those are technical aspects and things you might want to consider. Like I said, if you get all those good, you can just pick it up and play it anywhere, but the volume could be a bit of a problem. But that's overall the violin. And in my opinion, it is the most technical out of the other instruments. It requires the most maintenance. Like I said, it requires the most technique, and you can't control the sound as much until you get a lot better. So I personally think that the violin is the worst instrument for a blind person to play. Now again, I will say that if you love the violin, you have your heart set on the violin, then you can still do it, okay? Just it'll be a lot more difficult than the others. The path will be a lot harder, but if you really love it, then go for it. Do it. This is just to, give people a better idea of what might be easier for them. But yeah, like I said, if you love violin, then go for it. You can do it. It'll just be a bit harder. And but for most people who don't really just have their heart set on a violin, I think it's the hardest to do. So yeah. But now we're going to go on to the guitar. And the guitar is a little bit different. So we're going to go for the technique and knowledge. And you don't need that much knowledge for a guitar. You just kind of got to learn where the strings are. You got to learn to tune. And the frets are, it actually has frets, so you just gotta learn where to put your finger closer to the fret. So you don't really need to know as much about the guitar, honestly. You just need to learn kind of the bare minimum for guitar. And and technique and stuff that you might need to do. Your fingers are gonna have to get stronger. You're gonna have to build calluses on your fingers. So depending on if it's an acoustic guitar, that's gonna be even harder on your fingers because the strings are thicker than an electric. I've played both, pick your poison there. It's fine either way, but it's gonna hurt. It's gonna take you like a week, a week to 3 weeks maybe to build up finger strength, finger dexterity, so you can bend your fingers in the right positions, and the tips on your fingers will hurt. They will hurt a lot. They will be very sore. Just practice like 15 minutes a day. Just to build up, because your fingers will eventually build calluses over them, so it won't hurt as much, and then you'll build strength in your fingers. So that's the technical aspect that you'll have to learn there. You'll also have to learn maybe like some strumming techniques and stuff. So that's kind of it for the guitar with knowledge and technique. Not nearly as much. So now we're going to go to maintenance. So with the guitar's maintenance, you will have to change the strings, like I said, maybe twice a year if you want to get away with it like that. So guitar strings, again, probably be about $15. So you'd be looking at $30 a year. But most guitars will come with guitar strings, so we're just talking about straight up, maintenance and stuff. You won't have to do that for a little bit, but you will have to keep it in tune. And maybe once in a while, you'll have to maybe just like clean off the fretboard from where your fingers are pressing, and maybe clean the strings, but not a big deal for maintenance. It's not too bad, not as bad as the violin, but a little bit more still than the piano. So that's kind of the maintenance for that. And then next we have the cost. Now, I will be honest here. I've had 3 different guitars. I've also played with other guitars. My very first acoustic guitar was $50, and it was great. I bought it off a website called Musician's Friend. If they still have that particular guitar, I definitely think you should get it. It was like black, and it sounded great. It sounded good. It was good. I think for the price of admission for a guitar, I don't think you have to spend as much. You could probably get a decent guitar that'll get you by for like $100, but maybe you could even get one for $50 and it still sounds great. Because that's what I did. But if you go for one that's like $100, I don't think you'll go too wrong. Just do your research and check them out. So like as far as cost there, I would probably say that guitar is probably the cheapest, honestly, and yeah, so like $100 guitar. I don't know about electric. I got my electric for like $100, and I got it for like $70 because it was on sale, but it was originally like $110. So again, like either one, like around $100, $110 for an acoustic or an electric. So I guess if you really want to get a better guitar amp for your electric, most come with a guitar amp, but if it doesn't, then I guess that'll be an extra cost you have to eat. But if it's just like acoustic, or if it comes with an amp, then yeah, $100, somewhere around there. So that's kind of the cost. Well, and of course, like I said, you have to change your strings once every like 6 months or so. I mean, you could do it more often if you want, so it's probably about $15 each time. So, but the just upfront cost is like I said, $100. And so the miscellaneous / other category for the guitar is you can pick it up and play it anywhere. You don't need electricity. Say your power's out and you want to play your guitar. I mean, as long as it's in tune, then you're good. You can pick it up, you can play it. Unlike the violin, you can play it more softly with your strumming. So if you have neighbors or like someone else in the home, you can play a little more quietly, more easily with the guitar. And of course, you can't be completely quiet, but you can still get it pretty quiet. And so it's kind of better for that. Like I said, you can play it anywhere. You can just pick it up and play it. And so it's really great. I like the guitar a lot. And so I'm going to kind of like spoil the ending here, but I think the guitar is like the second option. Like I said, you have to get through the pain of your fingertips until you build calluses to really start playing. And you got to build some finger strength, and got to keep it in tune and stuff. So there's a couple things to think about to upkeep for the guitar, but I think it's a really good solid choice just to pick up and play. And like that's really all you need. So yeah, so that's pretty much the guitar. Next is the piano. And when I talk about piano, I'm talking about a digital piano. And so we'll just go through the main things. So on a digital piano, the technique or / knowledge is nothing. You need to know nothing to start playing the piano, the digital piano, and to produce a sound. You literally just press a key. You don't have to know anything, which I think is great. So you can just go and play it. So I think as far as that is knowledge and technique, like I think it's the best one because you don't need to know anything. Obviously, you want to learn stuff, but out of the box, you don't have to. So there's that. And then now the maintenance. Well, it's a digital piano, so there is no maintenance. So with a digital piano, you have no maintenance at all. There's nothing you need to replace. There's nothing you need to get. I mean, something that's optional is a foot pedal. Depending on the piano you end up getting, it might come with one and it might not. You could get one easily for like $15-20, and then you'll have it for like ever. So I mean, other than that, it's optional. But yeah, you don't gotta maintain anything really. Maybe just keep the keys clean and wipe them off here and there, but that's really about it. So yeah, so that's the maintenance. And then the cost. Now I'm gonna be real honest with you. The cost of pianos, I have only ever had a higher end digital piano. I got a Yamaha P105, and I have right now a Yamaha P125, which is an upgrade. They were both $600, and so they were a bit expensive. So I've never really used a lesser priced keyboard because I just wanted it to be good out of the box, and it's great and it's amazing. And if you want to buy that, Yamaha P125 all the way. Do that. It's great. It's amazing. But if you don't, I would probably say you could probably get an alright digital piano for like $150 to $200. Just do your research and look around, and if you like how it sounds through videos and stuff, then go for it. So for that, it's like I said, $150 to $200, and then you don't really need anything else. There's kind of a disclaimer here, though. There's a couple things, like I said, you could get with it, and that is, you could get a piano bench, or something that'll raise, so you can raise yourself higher to play at better angles and stuff. That's optional, but you can do that, but that'll be like, an $80 plus cost. But you could just do it. I mean, you could just play it with it in a chair or something. Another thing is, like I said, the pedal, but pedals are like $20 to get a good one, and you'll have that forever. So that's not a big deal, but you don't need that either. It's just an optional thing. And then another thing for cost that might come up is a stand. If you don't have a table or anything to put it on, it could be a bit difficult, and so that might be a problem if you don't have a stand. But honestly, you could just put it on the floor and sit and play it on the floor. It's not the best way to play it, but you by no means need a piano stand. But they do have movable, they're in X, they're metal, and they're in an X shape, and they can adjust the height of your piano, and they just sit on it, and they're really easy to use. I don't know how much they are, maybe $30 to $50 or something. You have to kind of look into that yourself. So there is maybe an extra cost if you really want a piano stand, or hopefully you have something already that you can put it on a table or something. But that's kind of it's is it necessary? No, it's kind of optional, but it would make things better. So, but the upfront cost, if you just wanted to get the piano and play it, is like I said, probably a decent one, $150 to $200. Now for the miscellaneous / other category, the piano, depending on what one you get, you have a volume slider, so you can turn if your piano that you buy has depth. So when you hit the key softer, it plays softer. That's one thing for volume. You can push down your volume slider so you don't annoy your neighbors or anyone in the household. It's even the best for that. Most digital pianos have a headphone jack, so if you really want to not make any noise, just play with headphones. That can be a really cool way to do it. Now, the digital piano itself, depending on what one you get, is not really that portable. You're not going to be moving it around too much, but you can just sit down and play it. The only other problem with it is that it does take, most of them just have to be plugged in and take electricity, so unless it's like battery powered or something, you're probably SOL if your power goes out. So that's kind of where the guitar kind of has a benefit there. You can just pick it up and play it. Whereas with the digital piano, you can't. But all in all, another benefit to a digital piano is you get other sounds. You get other sounds that you can listen to and play around with. So that's an extra bonus right there, other than just the digital piano sound. So that's kind of the wrap up. I think, the digital piano is the best instrument for a blind person. And the reason why is the cost isn't too bad, but also you don't need any knowledge. You don't need to maintain it. You don't need to keep it tuned. You just hit the keys and play. You learn some music theory and learn some chords. You can learn to play it pretty easily. As far as accuracy goes, I think it's easier to hit for accuracy because you don't have to make sure you're holding it close to a fret. You don't got to move up and down a fretboard exactly. The keyboard, there's flat keys and then there's raised keys that'll tell you where you are when you're feeling around. So I just think it's better for accuracy and just ease of use. So I really think the piano is the easiest and best instrument for a blind person to learn. Of course, with all these instruments, I'm not saying there's a lot of technique into piano that you can learn and get really good at. Okay, I'm not saying piano's the easiest thing in the world or there's no technique to it, because there is. But I'm just saying, right out of the box, you could start playing it and make sound, and you don't need to build up calluses on your fingers. You don't need to learn where to hold the fret and all this. So I definitely think the violin is the worst. Only do it unless only get a violin if your heart is set on it and you really want to do it. But I do, like I said, believe you can do it. If you can play the violin, it's just be really hard. But guitar is kind of middle of the road. It does have its pros and cons. You can move it anywhere. It doesn't have as much maintenance, but it still has some things you gotta get through. And like I said, the piano is, in my opinion, the best. But by no means, you can play any of these. Just the level of difficulty will vary, but I suggest the piano or second the guitar. So hopefully I broke everything down pretty well. Like I said, I apologize if this video is long, but I hope it helped any blind people who maybe want to get an instrument. If you have any questions for me that I may have not answered, because of course, I don't get scripts. I just do this all straight from my brain, so I might have missed something. But if you have any questions, just ask, and I'll try to answer them in the comments below. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Like the video, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. I will see you in the next video.